Mama. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 things that you need to include in your birth plan in order to make sure that your desires are communicated effectively. There is a bit of a controversy surrounding birth plans and whether or not to make them, as some people say that there is no need because you can't totally plan your birth. But I am a huge fan of creating birth plans, as I think that they are necessary in order to make sure that your birth happens exactly how you want it to, even if that means you have to create multiple birth plans for multiple birthing scenarios. Creating your birth plan can be an exciting but overwhelming experience, so I'm here to walk you through creating your birth plan and making sure that your birth unfolds how you want it to. So when I'm creating a birth plan with my clients, usually what we'll do is we'll break it down into multiple pages for basically everyone that's going to be a part of your birth. So we'll have pages that are designed for your partner, your doula, your mom, whoever is going to be basically your support in the room, who's going to be there for you, as well as having pages that are specifically designed for your medical team. With that being said, how we usually break down the pages, what I want you to start with is your ideal birth scenario. So this can include what would be a part of your ideal birth and things that you want to be in the environment. So whether that is maybe essential oils, what music playlist or hypnobirthing you want going, if you have candles around you, maybe you have dimmed lights, minimal interruptions. Really get specific in imagining exactly what you want your ideal birth scenario to look like. Then I want you to include birth preferences from early labor, what snacks you want, who's there, who's timing contractions, to labor preferences like pain management or comfort measures that you want. And then you can include pushing positions that would be ideal for you, as well as birth preferences like if you want delayed cord clamping or maybe a mirror, want baby to be wiped down. And then you can get specific in your newborn preferences and what goes on as soon as baby is born, including who you want to catch the baby, who's cutting the cord, and then more specific preferences like baby being wiped down, eye ointment, vaccines, etc. So this page is really for your birth team and your support people. That way they know exactly the environment to create for you during every stage of labor and exactly what you want in your dream birth. So one of the extra things that I want you to include in your birth plan is a pre-labor goal list. I want you to include what needs to get done around the house, what needs to go in your hospital bag, what needs to go in baby's bag, and what needs to go in the car. The reason that I want you to have this list is so that way your birth partner, your mom, your doula, whoever's there, is make sure that you have basically everything that you need. Even if you're planning a home birth, I do think that it is important to make sure that you have bags that are packed and ready to go. That way you can take them to the hospital, put them in the car in case of an emergency, or in case that it's decided that you want to go to the hospital for whatever reason. That way you are packed and ready to go, and everyone around you knows what to pack in case things aren't completely packed in the car yet. That way you're not having to instruct people or worry about forgetting things as you're in labor, because most likely you won't even be able to remember and have to be telling people what you need. And in the case you're not planning a home birth, if you're planning a hospital birth, labor is unpredictable. So you could be in early labor for a long amount of time where you will have time to do this and maybe start packing, loading up the car, making sure things are done. But in all reality, I don't even want you to be focusing on all of those things in early labor, because you want to be relaxing and tuning into your body, not worrying about packing your bags and packing up the car or cleaning the house. So this will be done with your birth partner or your doula, just to make sure that everything is done exactly how you want it to, in case early labor is super short and you actually don't have time to be packing all of this stuff. So again, get specific in exactly what you need: toiletries, what's going in the car, what's going in baby's bag, and what you want to be done throughout the house before. So whether that is taking out the trash, doing the dishes, having something specific prepared for you when you get home. That way, again, if you don't have time to do it, someone else who is there will do it for you. That way it's done and it's not something you have to worry about. So my next thing to include in your birth plan will be your page for your medical team. So this is super important in order to communicate and get your desires across effectively. So again, whether you're planning a home birth or a hospital birth, you should create this preference list. That way your team knows exactly what you want. So I would create one, again, if you're planning a home birth for maybe your midwife at home. That way they're just aware. Usually midwives, though, will be aware extensively because the midwife that you work with is usually the midwife that actually delivers your baby, versus in a hospital setting, you might actually not know what OB or midwife, if that's what you're choosing in a hospital, you're gonna get on the day that your baby's actually delivering. So with that being said, I think it's super important to write down specific preferences for each stage of labor. So your first stage of labor is your early and active labor. Your second stage of labor is pushing and the birth of your baby, and then the third stage is the birth of your placenta. So I want you to break it down in your preferences for each stage of labor, again, on one page. I want you to break it down on one page, and I want it to be short and concise, just bullet list notes. The reason that I want you to do this is so that way you can actually fold the piece of paper. Your medical team is only looking at what is necessary. So during your first stage of labor, again, early and active labor, most likely it's going to be your nurses or your OB, whoever is looking at your preferences, and again, short bullet notes so that way they're able to see exactly what you want. Make it easy for your doula or your birth partner to show your medical team your preferences. So after your first stage of labor is done, second stage of labor again is pushing and birth of your baby. So say you're getting ready to push, your doula or your birth partner is going to actually fold that paper down. So now all we can see is your second stage preferences. So let's say some examples for the second stage. As your OB and your nurses are looking directly at them, it will say like no coached pushing, so no holding breath, pushing in different positions, dad catches the baby. So now we have concise preferences that are listed in order. That way your, again, birth team is looking exactly what it needs to, and you don't have an OB who's delivering your baby looking at your active labor preferences. Again, this will just make it easier for your preferences to be seen and for your, again, birth partner or doula to make sure that they're able to advocate exactly for your wishes how you want them. You can do the same thing for every stage of labor and newborn preferences. So maybe those newborn preferences would look like not wiping down the baby, delayed cord clamping, or cutting of the umbilical cord until the cord is white and stops pulsing. Maybe you want your baby to do a breast crawl, or baby is immediately placed on your chest following delivery. So again, having them all on one page so you can fold the paper back to where you're at in labor, and so your medical team can see exactly what they need to see for your preferences for each stage of labor that you're in. And the last thing that is necessary to include in your birth plan is preparing for a multitude of situations that can happen in birth. So you planned your ideal birth, that was one of your pages, and now I want you to plan for every unwanted situation that could happen. So in this, I want you to write down your preferences for, again, every scenario that isn't your ideal birth. This could be, for example, what would happen if you had to have a C-section. It's super specific on every detail that you want in your C-section. More examples could be if your water breaks early. So let's say your water breaks before you're in labor. What are your preferences and what are you wanting to do for that? Maybe another example would be asking for pain medication if you are planning an unmedicated birth. What about if your baby is breached, or if you're planning a home birth but a hospital transfer is needed? So these are all examples of either uncommon or unwanted situations, and it's so important to make sure that you're planning for all of these situations too, because your preferences are important for every single one. So do your research on each of these things, find what you'd be comfortable with, and then write it down in as much detail as you can. And the reason why it's so important to do this beforehand is so that way your desires for your birth are executed and can be communicated to your birth team or your medical team. And so that way you can make level-headed decisions by planning out and researching beforehand, not while you are scared and in labor if something urgent or unwanted happens. I hope that that was helpful in things to include in your birth plan and how to lay out your birth plan. Again, just to reiterate, the top 3 things that I think are necessary to include in your birth plan are pre-labor goals, writing down all your preferences on one page that follows each stage of labor and your preferences for each, and planning for all unwanted, urgent, or unexpected situations. I do have linked down in the description of this video my birth plan and template guide. I will go over everything I just said and some more details, whether you're planning a home birth, a birth at a birth center, or a hospital birth. And then I have a free hospital bag checklist. That way you can make sure that you are packing everything that you need for the hospital or in case you have a hospital transfer. So make sure to check out those again in the description of this video. I will see you in the next one.